Hey Panda Nation, you are listening to the Inverted Gear podcast with your hosts Nelson and Hillary. Join us every week as we take you behind the scenes into our brand, discuss upcoming projects, and conversate beyond the mat with the interesting people we've met along the way.
Hey John, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Hanging in there.
Good.
It's April in Pennsylvania. Somehow we're getting snow just now. Thankfully it's not sticking, but hanging in there.
Good. Well, the weather's pretty nice down here in South Carolina. So
So how is that going? When did you guys move there?
we moved here mid-October. Yeah, and it's going great. It was kind of a bizarre chain of events. I think I'm 100% sure if this pandemic didn't happen that we would still be living in Connecticut and wouldn't have thought anything of it and planned on living there for however long our lives allowed us to. But I had a friend that moved down here last year, and it sort of got me thinking about why we were living in Connecticut when, it was different when Becky, my wife, had a different job, but now that she works for Tap Cancer Out, she came on board in January of last year, 2020. We can sort of run Tap Cancer Out from anywhere. And when you live in Connecticut, you pay for the privilege of being New York adjacent, but we never go to New York City. It's just in the way. The airport is 90 minutes away, plus it's another half hour just to get from parking to the terminal when you travel half the weekends of the year. It's a real grind. You can't take any flight after 8 a.m. So you're up and at 'em at 3 a.m. We can afford so much more down here. We're actually building a house and should be moving in this month. So we're excited. So we decided to just make the move, pick up and take our family and our business and my in-laws all down to the Charlotte area. So.
Wow, entire family.
Yes, yeah, it was a package deal. Her parents are retired, but the only reason that they're still in Connecticut was because or more importantly, our kids were in Connecticut. So if we were going to move down here, they were going to come with us. I mean, they're not living with us; they've got their own house, but yeah, they jumped at it as well. So we're living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 2 adults, 2 kids, and 2 pets. But it's only temporary, so we'll be in our house soon enough.
That is awesome. I remember about 10 years ago, one of my mom's friend was a real estate agent, and her whole thing was just she would help you sell the house you had in New Jersey and find your house either North or South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of there was a big movement back then. Like people just wanted to get out of New Jersey. Same thing you mentioned. Even back then already, people realizing you lived in New Jersey. A lot of what you were paying for was just because you were close to New York.
Yep.
And then you got to move to a different state, much cheaper real estate prices, and milder winters, which is always nice.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with the shoveling. I'm done with the cold. I've lived enough of a life with all of that. I enjoyed snow days, for school and stuff, but I don't need it anymore. We don't ski, we don't snowboard. I don't really need any of that cold. So, and it does get a little cold down here still. We're still definitely in winter, but yeah, we're excited to make the move and better schools for the kids, more stuff to do, closer to a city, 15 minutes from the airport. Can't beat it.
How are the new Tap Cancer Out headquarters?
I'm sitting in them now. This design back here. This is sort of our brainstorming room. It's great. We have probably 3 to 4 times the space we had in Connecticut for basically the same price. We're able to have our little warehouse in the back for all of our gear, where we can much more easily pick, pack, and ship things. We've got 3 rooms, a conference room, this room, a little kitchen area. So it's great. Literally about 50 feet from a jiu-jitsu school called Great Grappling, which is where I train now. So right in the center of town, you can't beat it. I'm also done with the commute. I mean, I wasn't commuting once I came full time with Tap Cancer Out, but my whole life, even in high school was an hour and a half away from where I lived. So I've been sort of commuting all my life, and I'm done with that. So I stay in this town, and I try not to ever leave. So we live here, we work here, we make sure we eat at all the restaurants here. Like if I need somebody for real estate, somebody for insurance, like whatever you need, I just want somebody in Fort Mill. That's our town, Fort Mill, South Carolina. So it's been great.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you reached an early retirement while working.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people, like, it's weird, and the idea of like getting to an age and then like not working anymore, or like working at Home Depot 20 hours a week or something. So I feel like I'm going to work forever. So I might as well just live where I was going to retire anyways. So we don't have to go anywhere. We can just stay here. But I mean, I'm very lucky to do what I do at Tap Cancer Out. It doesn't really seem like work as it traditionally felt in other jobs. So I'm very lucky, and yeah, we're in a good area. We don't have to go anywhere.
So let's talk about Tap Cancer Out for a minute. How has the vision changed since you started to now? And how much did the pandemic have to do? And how many changes did the pandemic brought on?
I mean, our mission has always been to motivate and empower the jiu-jitsu community to raise awareness and funds for cancer fighting organization. That never changes. Our sort of global vision to give every grappler the opportunity to fight for those in the fight of their lives. That's all stayed the same. We obviously had to make big changes in 2020 just to survive, really, just to like get through the year. We were able to host 2 tournaments at the beginning of the year in January and the beginning of February out in San Diego and Phoenix. So that was great. And then we were 2 weeks away from our Connecticut tournament when we had to cancel it. And then we ended up canceling all the rest of our tournaments for the year. We were able to host our showcases, or at least some of them. So we had to adjust them greatly. So instead of the normal, stage and lights and spectators and ticket sales and all that sort of stuff, we hosted them at private jiu-jitsu schools, no spectators. All the check-in in the staging area was actually outside, so you couldn't even come into the venue until you were on like triple deck for your fight. So you would come in. There was warm-up mats outside and inside. So you would warm up a little outside, you come inside, finish your warm-up, go fight, and then you had to immediately get out. So the only people that were inside the gym were the staff. So the referees, the people who were streaming it. We streamed it for free on Facebook because the best part of events like those are that people can watch you, and it's sort of a much easier spectator experience than it is coming to a typical like amateur jiu-jitsu tournament. My wife came to a few when I was a white belt, and then she never came again. And she came once as a purple belt, and I won my IBJJF division. But other than that, I would tell her not to even come because like she's just sitting there. I don't know what mat I'm going to be on. I'm there for hours. So the showcases are much easier to swallow. So we wanted to make sure everybody could watch those. And but they went really well. The fundraising was off the charts. I mean, our average fundraiser raises about $500, but for the showcase, that number was around $1,000. So with our Connecticut tournament, we raised $50,000 with only about 50 competitors, 45, 50 competitors. So, and then all the rest of the cities did really well as well. So we were very happy that we were able to do that and still do it safely, with everyone masked. And the weather actually worked out really well in every city. It was sunny everywhere, at least, and it was warm. It was warm in Charlotte, in Connecticut, and Philly. It was cold in Massachusetts, but it was still sunny. So Most people just sort of sat in their heated cars until they came in. But so luckily the weather worked out for us to have that sort of outdoor staging area. But and then the big thing with our tournaments is that we had, we were being 2 weeks away from our Connecticut tournament. We had raised what was probably about 50% of what we were going to raise for the whole tournament. So there was a lot of fundraising progress that had already happened, and momentum. And we had open registration for our spring tour, as actually for every tournament, but a lot of our spring tour events had people fundraising actively for those as well. So we needed to figure out a way that we could continue that momentum and give them something else to fundraise for, because as soon as you cancel a tournament, the fundraising immediately ceases, and it's understandable if the fundraiser doesn't have that catalyst, that event to say, I'm fundraising for this event. It's kind of it kind of falls flat a little bit. We have very few people that just create a fundraiser and fundraise for Tap Cancer Out because they love us. It's always, and I mean, we have some people do that for birthdays and things like that, but it's mostly tied to an event. I mean, that's our whole business model. So we needed to give them something. So we were racking our brains as to what that would be, and we sort of took note from a lot of the 5Ks and things like that, which are often done for charities that were pivoting to this, virtual 5K where, okay, we're not going to one place and all running around the same course together. Just do 5 kilometers around your house, run 2.5 kilometers away from your house and then come back. So, we try to figure out what the jiu-jitsu equivalent of that was. How do you do jiu-jitsu on your own? You can't really do jiu-jitsu on your own. So, although we did have people who took part who used grappling dummies or whatnot, but so we thought of this model. I also stole a little bit from my black belt test, where I had to roll for an hour straight with a new black or brown belt every 2 minutes, which is not fun. I got one break at the 30-minute mark, but otherwise I had to do that. And, my kids never see me do jiu-jitsu, but they came to that. So they got to see me get ragdolled for the better part of 55 minutes. I was good for the first 5 minutes, and then I was exhausted. So we created Global Grappling Day, which would just be, a single day that everybody would roll. And so you'd get so we wanted them to do it safely, so we didn't want to encourage schools to get together and have big open mats in the middle of a pandemic. So, you needed to grab one partner or grappling dummy and roll for 1 hour straight on this one day. And I didn't really know what to set the goal at. I didn't know how many people would be interested in an event like this, especially with a lot of jiu-jitsu schools closed. A lot of people would tell us, like, I want to do this. I don't really know where to do it. So we made a big push in sort of showing how people were adapting, their home sort of gym setups, or people going to the beach and doing it there, or park. And I did it in my in-laws' backyard patio that they had. Luckily, we have, warm-up mats. So we were able to set those up, and we did it in the backyard. But we just encouraged people to fundraise leading up to this event, and then it would be a day of jiu-jitsu where everyone around the world is doing their hour. And we even had people who either they were doing it with a grappling dummy, or they gave their significant other who doesn't do jiu-jitsu their first jiu-jitsu lesson for an hour. Or we had somebody pick up trash for an hour. People just wanted to get involved. So we set the goal at 100,000. But ultimately, we raised in new donations over 250,000, and we had upwards of 400 people, 400 fundraisers take part. But this is the first time it was really a global Tap Cancer Out event, which is really a nut that we were trying to crack forever. And I didn't really know how, and our tournaments do so well that I just had all sort of laser focused on making sure those are great. So I couldn't really get people involved internationally or even domestically. Like if you live in Seattle, it's still hard to get involved in a Tap Cancer Out event unless you're willing to travel. So we had people in 40 U.S. states and 12 countries take part. Right at midnight Eastern, we had somebody in, I think Malaysia or the Philippines or some. I apologize for not remembering, but he started his roll right at midnight, which was like 9 a.m. or something his time. And then it was awesome. We live streamed our roll with my colleague Dave. And then for the rest of the day, every time I would open Instagram and look up at the top where all the stories were, it would just be live Instagram live videos. And anyone I clicked in, almost always it was somebody doing their 1 hour Global Grappling Day roll. It was incredible. So I was trying to go in and comment on every single one of them. And it was really cool. You know, it united the jiu-jitsu community during a time where it was really hard for all of us to get together and sort of do any jiu-jitsu. So, you know, we were really excited about that. And now we have an event that's going to be a yearly thing. So we're still going to do it. We'll have our tournaments, but we'll have Global Grappling Day every year, sort of that second Saturday of December, sort of a time where not a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments are happening. Our schedule for the year is over. But we'll have this event where everybody, you know, anyone, anywhere can take part. You know, in the hour roll, it's sort of like, you know, we do 6-minute rounds or whatever, but to do that hour straight, or I mean, you could take breaks. I wasn't coming down on people for that, but you know, it was sort of that hurdle, kind of like a 5K, where even if you don't run, you can do a 5K. You might need to train for like a week or two. You know, you can't just get up off the couch and do a 5K, but it doesn't take that much training. So we like that sort of hour time frame. But yeah, so now we have Global Grappling Day every year. We're really excited about it.
Yeah, that is very cool. And I think a lot of the jiu-jitsu community, sometimes we default so much to the 5-minute round, 1 minute break, that like some people just have a mental like barrier whenever they have to roll anything
whenever
longer
the coach
than 5.
changes the clock. Oh, you're doing 8 minutes today. Oh, you're doing the black belt rounds at 10.
Yeah.
You see the faces like, how could you do this? It's like, it passes. Just roll.
And then you sort of have a cool feeling of accomplishment too, in the same way when you finish that 5K or half marathon or whatever, like, oh, I did it. And the best part were we got so many pictures, or tagged in so many pictures of people just laid out on the mat, and it's just like hour done, and it's two people just like completely exhausted with like pools of sweat, just like laying there. But they did it, and so you know, that was really cool. It was better than sort of just saying, you know, roll, you know, 5-minute rounds or something. You know, the hour round is cool, but it's doable. You can do it. If I can do it with a bunch of killers trying to destroy me for an hour straight, you can do it with your buddy. I mean, I think with Dave and it was probably 40 minutes of flow roll and 20 minutes of real jiu-jitsu. So we paced ourselves.
Very cool. So now that things are starting to open back up, I know there's the schedule starting to come together.
Yeah.
For tournaments to come back.
Yeah. So we basically have a full schedule for 2020, except the typical tournaments we would have had sort of in the beginning of January, February on the West Coast. So we're not going to have those. We'll just wait till, you know, the beginning of 2022, I guess, to have those. But all the rest, we basically just. You know, with a lot of our venues last year, we just said, hey, let's just try it again next year. You know, same day next year. So it's basically the same schedule, a couple small tweaks. But so it's 17 tournaments and 5 showcases, I believe. But, you know, especially with the spring tournaments that, you know, start in May. So it'll be May 1st in Charlotte, and then we end in Connecticut June 26th. But all those in between, you know, they're going to look different than a typical tournament would. You know, we're still in a pandemic. So we have to take a lot of health and safety precautions for these events. The good thing is we learned a lot at our showcases last year on how to best do that, and sort of tips and tricks to manage the flow of people in and out of a building, and sort of utilizing that outdoor space. You know, in May and June, the weather should be really nice, so we're still going to do that sort of outdoor check-in stuff, and obviously our whole staff is masked. We'll be working with more of like a lean crew, a lean volunteer team. We'll spread out the schedule during the day as opposed to trying to bang it out as quickly as possible. We'll put breaks in between kids and adults to get everybody out, and then bring the adults back in. All sorts of stuff. So we have like a full health and safety sort of protocol, and it's going to be a little weird as we go through the country. How the safety precautions sort of that are acceptable in Connecticut are looked upon differently. Let's say in Texas, like we'll have tournaments in Miami and Dallas, and so we're prepared for the difference in opinion, I guess you could say, among the community. But what we have to do is have a unified plan for every tournament. We can't really say like, okay, for the Baltimore tournament, we're going to do it like this. Everybody will be masked, no spectators. But then the next week when we're in Miami, we can't have spectators and masks are optional or whatever. Like we have to have this one unified plan so that there's no miscommunication, because someone's going to hear that spectators are allowed, but it's for one city and not for the one that they're looking at. It's a whole thing. So we basically have to have the same plan for every city, and we have to make it as safe as possible everywhere we go. We are a health-based nonprofit organization. So, if we turned into some sort of COVID super spreader event, that is a horrible look for us. It's one thing if it's just like a for-profit jiu-jitsu tournament or whatever, but we are here literally to try to save lives. And so if we are unnecessarily putting lives at risk, it could mean the end of our business, the end of my livelihood, the thing that pays my salary, my wife's salary, the health care for my family. Like, I'm not going to put any of that at risk. And obviously, more importantly, I just don't want to put anyone at risk. That anyone who's attending our tournament, whether they're a spectator or a volunteer, I'm sorry, not a competitor, a volunteer, a staff member, all that sort of stuff. So we are very happy just to be hosting events again. We're very lucky that we're set up to do so in May and June. So we don't want to rock the boat in any way. We're going to do it as safely as possible so that we can make sure we're hosting all of these events. God forbid we do something in Dallas that puts our Minneapolis tournament at risk. It's not really fair to the latter tournaments if we're sort of just hosting them willy-nilly and putting the rest of them at risk. And we depend on every single tournament in order to hit our giving goals of 1 million to our beneficiaries this year. So, but we're really excited. And to be honest, we have a board meeting, and we have 4 of them a year, but we had one at the beginning of the year, and we have to talk about sort of projections. And of course, the question arises to me, are people going to want to compete? What do you think the registration numbers will be compared to a normal year? What do you think the fundraising numbers will be compared to a normal year? It was a hard question because we never dealt with this. I did see that fundraising last year was amazing. So I actually think the pandemic, people are looking for a reason to feel good. It's hard to feel good. We don't have a lot of those outlets where we can feel happy and good. But when you donate to someone's Tap Cancer Out fundraiser or donate to any nonprofit, you get those endorphins and you sort of feel good. And I think people, the fundraising did so well last year, in the limited opportunities that we had to do it, because donors really wanted to feel good. And wanted to make a difference when they felt so powerless otherwise. It's the one thing that they could control. I can give to this organization, help them further their mission. So I'm confident that our fundraising numbers will be great, but I didn't know what the registration would be like. I don't know how many schools are back to training. I don't know how many schools survived. Some definitely didn't. I mean, we know them personally in Connecticut, schools that are no more, that were big supporters of our tournaments, but they just had to close. So I didn't really know what those numbers would be, but so far, I mean, knock on wood, our registration numbers are amazing and completely outpacing any other tournaments that we've had. And I can't even really explain it. I mean, maybe it's people are just itching to get back to competing. And obviously those opportunities are limited, even with, IBJJF is back, Grappling Industries and NAGA are back, but no one is back at full board, full capacity, and IBJJFs are selling out in like 4 days. So, I'm sure people are looking to compete, and hopefully they love our events too, and they want to be a part of it. But so like the registration and fundraising has been amazing for these events. Obviously, I hope it keeps up. But we're just going to make sure that we continue to host well-organized events, but now, as safely as humanly possible. And then we'll sort of, when we get to the fall, we'll really reevaluate our policies and sort of what the world is like come September, October.
That is so cool. I remember about a year ago, having a conversation with you. We were both kind of looking at each other like, it's like we're kind of dead in the water right now. It's like everything is shut down. And then the uncertainty of not knowing if it's going to be 2 weeks, is it going to be a month, if it's going to be a year. So I'm so happy to have this conversation with you now and see how well and how things are moving forward again. And because you guys had such an awesome momentum before the pandemic kind of put a stop to it. How many tournaments were planned for last year?
It would have been 19 tournaments. I mean, but we had 2 of them, so we had 17 left.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of revenue that we didn't see, And so yeah, I mean, April and May were very scary, for sure. I mean, I was confident we would survive, but I was not sure we would survive. And luckily, myself and my wife and Dave, we all have skill sets. Like we could get a job, doing something else if we had to. It wasn't going to be the complete end of the world, but certainly not what we wanted to do. We didn't want to see the doors to Tap Cancer Out close. But if there was only so much money left in the bank and only so many payrolls to go. It was touch and go, but we reached out to our community. We set up the Podium, which is our monthly recurring giving program as well, and the response to that was amazing. So we were hoping for 50 people in the first month, and we had it within like a week and a half. And so those are our monthly givers, just like you subscribe to Netflix and Hulu and all of that stuff. We have people who sort of who give to Tap Cancer Out on a monthly basis in order to help us our infrastructure grow, and that was amazing. And obviously the PPP helped as well. But once we were able to figure out a way to get the showcases back up and running, and they were actually, I mean, we had to move our Connecticut showcase obviously because that was going to be in March, so we moved that to August, but we were able to keep the schedule of the showcases that were going to take place in September, October, and November. And we had a bunch of school owners who opened their doors to us, which was amazing, especially during the fall of last year. That's not a time where you want to let 100 strangers into your jiu-jitsu school to stomp around and do jiu-jitsu and set up tables and equipment and all sorts of stuff. So, that was amazing that we had so many school owners who said, yeah, absolutely, come on in. You can host your event here for free. No school owner charged us anything. Our Philly event was in like a regular sort of sports center type venue, but the rest were at jiu-jitsu schools. And and all the volunteers that came and helped during a time where most people didn't want to leave their house for good reason. So yeah, I mean, it was a tough year. I don't ever want to go through it again, but it was a weird time of like, yes, there's a possibility that we may not recover, and we'll sort of run out of funds, so to speak. But I always had this weird optimism as well. Like, if we can just get to the Connecticut showcase, if we can just get to these events, if we can just get to Global Grappling Day, there's there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So we all sort of stayed optimistic and just try to continually reinvent different ways to keep going, and doing crazy flash sales on our merchandise, and like anything we could to gain support and continue the momentum. And our community was amazing in the way that they held us up, and that's just a testament. I was actually talking to my team about this yesterday, about sort of our brand pillars, and one of them is community. And I really think that that's a huge differentiator for us in the jiu-jitsu tournament space. I know we're not just a jiu-jitsu tournament organization, but we're one of the few that can say, like, we have a community of supporters, a community of jiu-jitsu folks who support our events and support us in so many different ways. And we try to be here for them. And support their fundraising efforts, and share all of their content on Instagram. Like, we love to show other people's stuff on there. We want to make our fundraisers famous, our supporters famous. But when we need them, they support us as well. I mean, they support us far more than we support them. So it's a testament to the community that we've built over the years, and to the jiu-jitsu community as a whole. They were just they're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we've been involved, I think, since the second tournament, and we've run tables for you, we refereed, we made gear for you before, but it was always so cool. Every time we go into one of your tournaments, we always run into the same people.
Yep.
Volunteering, and just years in the making. And as the tournaments grew and grew, it wasn't just seeing them in Connecticut and Massachusetts, but they will be all the way down to Philly. The one time we ran into you in San Diego.
Yes.
And you have such an amazing community. For the people that are just finding out about Tap Cancer Out, can you take us to a quick timeline of the tournaments? How many tournaments you were running a year?
Sure, yeah.
And how it grew from New England?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very slow growth, and that was intentional. I had a full-time career in marketing and advertising, and it took a lot of my time, but I was looking for a way to give back and to make a difference in the world. I just looked at myself and saw that I wasn't really doing anything to make the world a better place. So when I came up with this idea for Tap Cancer Out, I mean, we didn't know that we were going to host events. I mean, that took a few years just to figure out. But once we did that, we had our first tournament in 2012, and we were just looking at a picture of it yesterday as well. Looking at we begged, borrowed, and stole our way to hosting that event. With wrestling mats and just pushing my brown belt and black belt teammates out there to ref, and it was crazy. It was crazy how well it went, considering how sort of it was put together with duct tape and more specifically painter's tape, which is what we had to use to mark out the rings and stuff. But it was a great success, and we had people asking when the next one would be. I didn't really have an answer. I just wanted to make sure that one was good. And then so the next year we had one in Connecticut, and then we had one in Massachusetts. And then every year, except for one, we would just add another city. So San Diego was our third city. Philadelphia was our fourth city. And I believe Buffalo was actually our fifth city. And so we just kept adding more and more events until it was taking up all of my vacation time, because I would take the day off from work on Friday. I'd go get a U-Haul truck. We'd go to the storage facility, fill the whole truck, drive to wherever we had to drive, which wasn't necessarily comfortable to drive to Philly or whatnot in a U-Haul truck, but we did it, and then we'd host the event, we'd drive back on Sunday, and then I was back to work on Monday. But as we grew and we were hosting more and more events, I just found, the events were getting bigger and bigger. It was one thing when we had like 150 people at our event, but the Connecticut events were attracting 500, 600 competitors, and it was a lot to manage all of just the email, just the questions that people have, and changing their weight classes and things like that. It was taking up a lot of time And I couldn't always do that stuff during the day. And I also just saw myself really, every day I would go into work. As much as I loved what I did, I loved Tap Cancer Out more, and I just wanted to be focusing my time on Tap Cancer Out. So I became a little more withdrawn from the agency that I worked with, and sort of as like some friends would leave and go to other jobs, I sort of wouldn't fill that and find new friends until I was just sort of sitting in my office all day, not really talking to anybody unless I had to, and just getting my advertising work, strategy work done as quickly as I could so I could go back to working on Tap Cancer Out. So, it was what is it? Not a tilting point, tipping point. There you go. Where I was like, okay, there's obviously a business model here where if we have more events, I can do this full time. There's plenty of other tournament organizations that do that. So we just need to add more events. So I had to figure out how to do that, number one, and do that more efficiently than sort of the hub and spoke model that we had already. We had to do the sort of carnival model, which is our tours now, where we're for 2 to 3 months, we're in a different city every weekend. So we had to add those events and sort of figure out what those cities were, find a driver, get a truck and a trailer and all that sort of stuff. But if we did that, I could do this full time. And then the more events we added, the more staff that I could add. And this could be, a full-time thing. And maybe someday I could even hire my wife and we could do this together, which I eventually was able to do. So in 2018, I left my job to pursue Tap Cancer Out full-time that summer. And then that fall, we had our first Grappling for Good tour, where I believe we were in 7 cities in 8 weeks. And it was awesome. It was the first time we sort of really went on the road and had that whole experience, and it was great. And it was interesting to see, which cities really exploded and supported us. And I mean, everybody supported us really well, but there were some cities that you didn't know had such a vibrant jiu-jitsu community, like Charlotte here. And then they completely blow you out of the water with the impact that they can create. And so we did that. And then in 2019, we did it again. Plus, we added a few more extra tournaments in there. So we still had our sort of flagship tournaments in Connecticut, Massachusetts, San Diego, Philadelphia. And then we sprinkled the tour in there as well. And we added Baltimore and Charlotte in 2019. So in 2020, that was where we're going to have 2 tours, one in the spring, one in the fall. I wanted to get over that 20 number of events. So that was the plan last year. It didn't happen, but it'll happen this year with tournaments and events. We'll be at, I believe, 22 events total, 23 if you include Global Grappling Day. So we're really exciting. And then in the future, who knows? I'd love to go international, host something in the UK, and just continue to extend further and extend the boundaries of sort of what we have here and reach more of the grapplers around the world and sort of fulfill that vision of giving every grappler that opportunity to fight for those in the fight of their lives. So that's sort of how we grew. And we're here now. We're a staff of 3. And we're a staff of 3 full-time. We have a head referee that works with us at every event, our bracketing queen, Shannon, who's there at every event, who's actually, she's from Canada. And so we had to figure out how that was going to work because she can't fly back and forth from Canada to every event. So she's going to live with us for 2 months. So we're literally, we close on our house April 23rd and she flies down and moves in with us April 25th. So she's literally going to be unpacking boxes with us in our new home. But we'll do whatever it takes to host these events, including bringing Shannon down here, and she's going to live with us. So
that is so awesome.
Yeah. So we're excited for this year.
Shannon.
Yeah,
we love her too.
That is super cool.
That's cool that you can do that for 2 months, though. Just leave Canada, But that's
yeah.
You can host her at the same time and have her there.
Yeah, it all sort of worked out. I think her lease was expiring on her apartment, and she's a boxing coach there, and Canada is even more restrictive than the U.S. in terms of what people can and can't do. So it was more difficult for her to do what her livelihood. So I said, hey, while Canada is getting their stuff together, just come down here and work these events with us, and she jumped at the chance. I think it's an accurate representation. I mean, she was level-headed about it, but I think she's excited too. But she's critical to our team. Our core Tap Cancer Out team, we take pride. I take pride in the people that I surround myself with. I always try to surround myself with smarter people than me, and I think I've done that. But these are great people, and once I find great people, I don't want to let them go either. They're a competitive advantage as well. So, I'll do whatever it takes to keep that great team, because they are really what makes our events run so well. And we work great together.
Yeah, like for people that never been involved in the back end of a tournament, bracketing can make or break your event, and it is like so overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, we learned that the hard way. For the first two events, maybe even our first three events, because Shannon didn't come until our Connecticut tournament of 2014. So our first three events, we had to hand write the brackets, and then the events were getting bigger and bigger, and so it was getting more difficult. And with so many people missing weight, we have to move them around. It was just like complete mayhem, erasing, rewriting. I mean, I knew that there must be a better solution, but that was the only solution I could come up with at the time. We had no budget for anything. So, but I remember the last time we were handwriting those brackets, Becky and I, the night before, I was like, I'm never, ever doing this again. This is the last time. Like, whatever I have to do, I'm going to figure out a way that we do this better. And so we hired Shannon to come down. She had a computer with cool software on it that did everything. And I said, you take it away. I'm going to get out of your hair. I'll go weigh people in or something, but you can handle all that stuff. And she's fantastic. And so there's not only the science. So bracketing is definitely a science, especially when you're dealing with kids and parents and coaches who all have different ideas of what they'd like to see. And the kids are very delicate as well. If a kid is alone in a division, with an adult, it's just like, all right, fight up a weight class or something. But with a kid, you can't just like send them up a weight class and feed them to the wolves. And so you have to, okay, we'll let you fight in the younger age division, but you're going to be fighting heavier kids. So you have to like find this weird balance, and then you have to pitch it to the parents and the coaches, and then the parents of the other kids who are in the division and their coaches. And so Shannon does all that amazingly with her Canadian niceness and smile and stuff. So there's like there's all of that goes seriously overlooked. And I mean, we've all the tournaments that you guys and I have competed in, it's really like you don't ever expect people in bracketing to be nice to you. You're expected, if you have a question, they're just going to yell at you or tell you where to go or what to do or stop asking, all that sort of stuff. And I mean, we get peppered with questions, and I sort of understand that sentiment sometimes when you answer the same question 50 times a day. But she does it amazingly, and so she sort of understands that and the customer service aspect of it. There's so much customer service that goes into hosting events like this that you have to understand how to do it. And again, I just wanted to host the tournament that I always wanted to attend, but I would attend tournaments and they wouldn't be good for whatever reason. Either they might be well run, but nobody's nice to me, and no one wants to answer my questions, or maybe they're very nice, but it's complete chaos and nobody knows where to go or what's going on and things like that. I wanted to make sure it was like well organized, because I get very anxious at tournaments too, super, super anxious, more so than any other sport. I don't know why, but so I'm anxious to begin with. When you add the anxiety of like not knowing where to go or like when you're fighting, or you're supposed to fight at this time, but you don't actually fight until 2 hours later, and so you warm up and cool down. Like when you add all that on top of it, it's like, do I really want to compete? Like if this is going to be the experience, do I really want to compete? And we have to have people coming back to our events every single year. So I just wanted to host that type of event, and I think we've done that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can tell how much you care because like you said, I can tell how anxious you get tournament day. And we've seen you all over the place over the years. Like I remember one year, like the software wasn't working and
oh yeah,
you guys had to handwrite like a bunch of brackets. Or one time we were visiting friends in San Diego and we went like the tournament's today. Let's go see how Jon is doing. And you saw Hillary and me and another black belt. You were like, please put a red shirt on and jump on this table. We're like, whatever you need. But I think not only you do a great job running the tournament, and you have this responsibility also because a lot of times for the people competing at your tournaments might be the first time they ever come to a jiu-jitsu tournament. So you do such a great job setting a high bar to what they expect from then on.
Yeah, so the majority of our competitors are white and blue belts, just like any other tournament. And I'm living proof. The higher the belt you get, the less you compete. And now I'm at black belt, and I'll probably never compete again. But most, if a white belt generally stays, at white belt for a year or less, I got my blue belt in 6 months. So that means, and we're only in a city once a year. So all of these white belts, it's probably their first time ever coming to a Tap Cancer Out tournament. It might be their first tournament ever, but even if it's not, it's probably their first Tap Cancer Out event. So the majority of our competitors probably haven't ever been to our event. And so this is their first experience. So we can't rest on we've hosted 45 events and they've all been amazing. Well, it doesn't matter because this is their first event. So it needs to be amazing for them. So it's just this constant, we have to look at every event as if it's our first event, because it is for a lot of these people. And we have to, have that great first impression because we want to have the opportunity to make a second impression and a third impression and a fourth impression. And, we have not everybody fundraises at our tournaments, and that's fine. About 30 to 50% will fundraise depending on sort of how mature a tournament is. But a lot of times, we'll have people, maybe they won't even compete at the first tournament. They'll just come and watch their teammates, and they'll be like, oh, this is actually a great tournament. I'm going to pay a registration fee next year and I'll compete. So they pay the registration fee and they compete in year 2, and they have a great time. But they see all these people going to the merch table and leaving with a backpack and a gi and a rash guard and a t-shirt, but they can't have that t-shirt because you have to fundraise for it. And then oh, okay, well next year I'll compete, but I'll fundraise as well. And so maybe they'll fundraise enough to compete for free, but now they want this one. And so it keeps going up and up and up. And so we see this evolution of a Tap Cancer Out competitor going from sort of interested or first-time competitor to, fundraising year after year and getting better at fundraising year after year. And so we want everybody to be in that sort of life cycle. So we have to make sure it's a great experience for them and that they want to come back. And that's paramount. And we talk about that nonstop to our team, to our volunteer team as well. And, there's a lot of sensitive issues that happen at tournaments. A lot of, people take them seriously. It doesn't matter if it's a charity tournament. People take them very seriously. So, we have to deal with that a lot. And it's understandable if people on my team would get stressed out or short with someone. But, we can't really do that. We have to, make sure that everyone has a great experience. And so we strive for that.
Yeah. I think you also do a very good job about setting expectations, and you're really defining what you want the tournament experience to be. And you make it very clear that, hey, we're here to compete, we're here to have fun. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's a charity tournament. This is not the World Championships. Yep. Don't scream at my refs.
Yeah, and most people are pretty good about that.
Yeah.
I mean, we generally don't have a lot of issues with that sort of stuff. But hey, I also get it. I competed in our Buffalo tournament when I was a brown belt. That I had my gi. There was only 3 guys in the division. If I joined, it would be 4. Everybody gets 2 matches. It would be perfect. And so I was like, all right, I'll join. I lost both my matches, and I was bummed. Man. I wanted to freaking win. I was super bummed. In the second match was not close, but the first match was really close. And man, if I could just have he stopped like my favorite sweep, and I was so annoyed. And if I could have just finished that, I would have won. So like I tell everyone not to take it seriously, and I was taking it very seriously. So I get it. Like, I totally get it. When you step out on those mats, it doesn't matter what tournament you're at. You want to win. So I get all that. But in general, people are always really great sports, and we hope that it's an environment where, not only do you have that opportunity to compete, but you're also, meeting other people and sort of having this team experience as well. A lot of teams sort of rally around this event to be one of the events where they try to get as many people as possible. A lot of schools have sort of their own cancer story within it, and they'll sort of rally around that. So we'll have like people show up show up at tournaments with T-shirts custom made, and it might say Tap Cancer Out on the front, and it'll say like Braden Strong or something, like they're fighting for a kid in their school. So it's really great to see all of that as well, and the different ways that they use our events to honor and cope and grieve and all that sort of stuff. But that's also why we want our beneficiaries to be there, so they can meet them and learn about them. We want it to be a lot more than just what's happening, on the mats. That there's a lot more stuff to do, get an acai bowl, something like that. We just want people to have fun and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I lived that in a different way. Back then, you only had the one tournament. So I remember ordering like patches and a T-shirt so I could wear it to the New York Open, and like the package got lost in the mail or something. And you told me, say, hey, I'll be there. I can give you the stuff at the tournament. Yeah. And my mom was going through cancer treatment at the time. And I remember, being in the hospital with her. She actually had her white blood levels were really low, so she had to stay at the hospital the week before the tournament. And my mom was like, "Yeah, he's like, you need to go train." He's like, "What are you talking about? I'm not going to the tournament." She's like, "No, you're going to the tournament." And she kicked me out of the hospital. I went train. I won the New York Open as a purple belt. I was able to find you before the podium. I got to stand at the podium with a Tap Cancer Out T-shirt. And we've been supporting ever since, and it's been such a cool experience to know you for this long, and see Tap Cancer Out grow, see your family grow. I got to meet your kids when they were like tiny.
That's right.
Now you got to meet Leo when he was tiny, and we got another one in the way for Jon to pick up.
Good.
So happy for you. So happy things are getting back to normal. Where can people find you online, and where they can learn more about Tap Cancer Out?
Yeah, so if you just go to tapcancerout.org, you're going to find all the information for our tournaments. I mean, you can find us on Instagram, just at anywhere. It's just at Tap Cancer Out. You can find us. We share a ton of content on Instagram, but yeah, all the links to the different tournament sites are just on our website, tapcancerout.org. Lots more information on there as well. We're super transparent. All of our financials are on there. Fundraiser Hall of Fame is on there. A little bit more about our story. So yeah, you can get everything there.
Well, thank you so much. We love talking to you and catching up with you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Yes, thank you so much.
And good luck with the house.
Thank you. Yeah, we need it.
All right, Jon. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for listening, Panda Nation. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Inverted Gear podcast. You can find us at invertedgear.com as well as your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to give us a like, and we'll see you soon.